Let's turn our attention now to the National Weather Service and the role it played in responding to the catastrophic floods in Texas. Tom Fahy is the legislative director with the National Weather Service's employees organization. We reached him in Arlington, Virginia. Tom, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us this morning. I appreciate it.
You're very kind. Thank you for the invitation.
Can we talk a little bit about, there's so many questions being raised about the warnings and what could have been done, what should have been done. There are positions at the National Weather Service that hadn't been filled at the time of these catastrophic floods. What can you tell me about the types of positions that were not filled at the time of this event?
There's a couple of positions. In the San Antonio office, there was the science operations officer, and the warning coordination meteorologist. At the San Angelo office, there was an acting meteorologist in charge because the meteorologist in charge earlier had retired. So when we have a situation like this in the National Weather Service, the leadership, the management of the National Weather Service, they'll appoint individuals to serve in acting capacities so that each office has its own management structure. So there was really no one vacant or from those positions that we're referring to. There's been a lot of hype about why the warning coordination meteorologist was not there. At the beginning of the onset of the Trump administration, the position of the warning coordination meteorologist is one of outreach to the emergency management community and the public safety officers. That's the person who coordinates education and outreach, tabletop exercise, disaster planning.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear here. And you're saying that, to your estimation, even though there were open positions, they didn't have any tangible impacts on how orders were issued or the information that was shared to the public?
That is correct. Okay. Absolutely correct.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the timeline for the protocols and how things went out? And looking back, and I know it's still very early days, and we know that those searches are still going on, but even at this point, was there anything that should have been done differently?
No, it was done by the book. The forecasters looking at the model data, the meteorologists, the weather forecasters, the two offices in San Antonio and San Angelo looked at the model data that they have to work with, and they did a flood warning advisory 12 hours in advance of the event, and then starting several hours out throughout the day and the evening, started to issue watches, which are like, okay, get prepared, something's coming, and warnings, which is telling you to take more serious action till the middle of the night when they issue a catastrophic alert, which is, of course, the evacuation order. But to your point, though, about doing things differently, no, it was all done right, and the president cited that in some comments recently.
Well, it was all done right. It has had deadly consequences in communities. We see groups coming together, prayers being held, a 10-year-old girl expressing her sympathies because she was in Camp Mystic and expressing, with the understanding of pain and sorrow for the families who have lost loved ones. What should people have done to prevent this sort of situation if, as you say, there were the warnings, everything was handled as it should have been?
There'll be a lot to unpackage in the weeks ahead. As one of the speakers earlier you had on from Comfort, Texas, there'll be a lot to unpackage here in the weeks ahead. And again, the Governor Abbott in Texas, working with the Texas Division of Emergency Management and the regional councils in Texas, this is something that the whole state of Texas, and for that matter, many places in the United States, the dialogue is now ongoing because it's drawing more attention to what has to happen. At the National Weather Service, we have still critical understaffing of offices across the country as a result of the early retirements this year. So we still have the problem that if indeed a mass precipitation event like this was to happen in a couple of other places in the United States, I would shudder to think about it because San Antonio and San Angelo were extremely well prepared. They had a very adequate staff. They had 23 meteorologists between both offices. During the night of the event, the overnight portion of the event, they both had 5 meteorologists working working the tables, working the alert systems. So, like I said, they did their jobs and they did it properly.
Given your position as the legislative director with the National Weather Services Employees Organization, is there anything sitting there today that you want to see changed immediately for better weather preparedness, for better information sharing, so that you don't see the deadly consequences like are unfolding right now?
I understand your question. If on my wish list, weather service offices across the United States have to be fully staffed. Absolutely fully staffed. We can't have any vacancies. We've had some existing vacancies over the years, and this event has also highlighted the importance that weather forecast offices must be fully staffed and to eliminate all the vacancies that we have in various offices across the country. That'll go a long way to helping to, again, coordinate with much more effectiveness with the emergency management and public safety community, who are our partners, our stakeholders.
And Tom, I just want to make sure I'm super clear on this point. So that you're saying the staffing shortages or the vacancies did not impact the situation, that everything was done correctly. However, you still want all of those positions because they are important to be filled. Is that correct?
That is correct, because there are offices across the United States that and I realize we don't have time for it this morning in this broadcast, but there are offices indeed that are direly understaffed. And that's something that the leadership of the National Weather Service and the National Weather Service Employees Organization are looking at and trying to figure out.
Tom Fahy, I'm very appreciative of your time this morning. Thank you so much for talking with us.
You're very kind, and thank you for the invitation.